Welcome to the Steve Has a Chat podcast, where I call someone out of the blue with the record button on and hope to have an unscripted conversation about Microsoft business applications. Let's see how it goes. Enjoy.
Hello, this is Thomas Manders.
Hey Thomas, Steve Mordew, how's it going?
Hey, Steve. Good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. I got this idea for a podcast. I'm doing that little Steve Reads His Blog podcast, and I was thinking about trying to do something a little more with it, along the lines of maybe just talking to people, just having a conversation, unscripted, unedited, just off the cuff about something. Is that something you'd want to do with me?
Sure. Sure. So we recording now?
As a matter of fact, we are.
Okay. Well, hang on just a second. Let me grab my door. Hang on a second.
All right.
All right. Well, fire away.
So I wanted to talk with you about Dynamics 365 for marketing. It's a pretty hot topic out there. I know you and I have been, knee deep in it, along with a couple of other partners in this pilot. And I think there's a lot of customers and partners out there that are, still getting their arms around it. I've written about it, but the attention seems to be high. And before we get into that, maybe you could tell anybody that's listening to this, who you are, what your company is, what you're about.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm the CEO of Coffee and Dunn. We're a Microsoft Dynamics partner, heavily focused on the marketing space about the last 5.5, 6 years. We really, our goal is to help companies achieve, better marketing and sales success through technology. So we've been in the space here with Microsoft about 5.5, 6 years, and obviously partnering with you now, Steve, in the last year or so to really kind of extend our team and bring some, technical chops to the table.
Yeah, I'm real excited about our partnership because, obviously we couldn't do anything with the Dynamics for marketing without the marketing chops. So it seems like a pretty good marriage. And 5.5 years, that puts you back into the MDM days, right?
That's right, and that's frankly how we kind of got into the Microsoft channel through Microsoft's acquisition of Marketing Pilot, which became MDM. And for those anybody that may be listening, the MDM, of course, was Microsoft's first foray into the marketing space, which, was ultimately, I think, not as successful as hoped, and thus the product has now been decommissioned. But I think through that process, there was a lot of learning, and that learning has informed the development of a ground-up application, the Dynamics 365 for marketing. So, a lot of learnings there.
Yeah, I really felt like they didn't really have their heart in the last effort, but working with the team this time around, they clearly seem to be committed to getting this thing done, getting it over the finish line, having it be a contender in the space. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just the whole approach has been much better with the the preview programs and the pilot partner programs that they put in place to drive feedback back into the engineering team and the marketing teams. And we've actually, to kind of cement that, we have seen a very active participation from the engineering team in supporting the product. We've got, as you know, Steve, the kind of key customer we're working with together. We've had a lot of participation from the engineering team that's been very positive. At the same time, it's a bit by necessity. The product does its version 1, so it's got its share of hiccups, that we're having to deal with.
Well, somebody's got to be a guinea pig, right?
That's right. That's right.
So that's been the role of kind of the pilot partners and some of these pilot customers is to take all this stuff that they built and put it in their environment and see if we can get it to work and see if we, where the issues are with the product. And I know there's been a lot of that going on these past couple of months, but every issue that's discovered is then solved and that issue's gone. How do you feel we're doing in progressing towards, knocking out most of those issues? I mean, is there still a pretty long list ahead, or are we?
No, not really. To be honest, the majority of the issues that we've identified have already been fixed, and so that's certainly a good thing. And then beyond that, we kind of characterize them as defects versus gaps, meaning just missing functionality or areas where the product could be extended. And so we're already seeing some of those gaps also being addressed in terms of things like segmentation and the designer, email designers and things like that. There's capabilities that are coming pretty rapidly, frankly. And I think, as you know, there's a new release that'll be out in about a month that has whole new sets of functionality that we're pretty excited about.
Yeah, it's interesting working with Microsoft now versus working with them, a few years ago, where they kind of go in a black box and build something, and they did that here as well. But then once partners get involved, they in the past have, in my mind at least, tended to defend what they've done as opposed to take feedback from the partners, and that has not been the case certainly with this product at all. I mean, this group is tell us anything, tell us anything to make this thing better, any bumps, any rough edges that we can smooth. They've been extremely receptive.
That's right, and I think they're listening to that feedback, which comes through the eyes of the user, the eyes of the marketer, who's hands-on, trying to leverage this solution to drive very successful marketing for their enterprise. So whereas there's a kind of a natural bent towards the technology and the engineering side of it, they are starting to listen more to the usability and how to make the life of the marketer better when using this tool, make it a little bit easier to use. Right now there's still a bit of a need for support from people like us and so forth to help initially get the solution launched and sort of learn how to best navigate it and get the results that are desired. But I think we're seeing a push toward making it even more making it simpler for the day-to-day marketer to use.
Yeah, I remember when they first started this effort back when they had Business Edition was going to be a product, and I remember talking to the team then about one of the challenges with a product like this while it was still being conceived is who's going to sell and support it, because with rare exception in the channel, most Dynamics partners are not marketing partners, and they can install this application and then customers pretty much on their own, and hopefully at some point it gets fleshed out where an experienced marketer or customer end could do it. But I think that has been a challenge with the product, is there's not enough partners that are marketing savvy enough to feel comfortable demoing it, explaining it to a customer, and actually helping a customer succeed with it.
Yeah, I think you're right, and frankly, that's kind of how we found our niche. We came to this party with deep, marketing roots and background with many other solutions with marketing process and strategy and so forth. And so, in that regard, we're a little bit of a unique animal. However, for this to ultimately succeed for Microsoft, a lot of those other partners that are maybe have more of a CRM or sales slant can start to come up the curve to be able to do all the things you just described, everything from the pre-sales demo through the implementation and even the operation. We do a number of our clients where we actually operate the solution for them. So that is an area where I think not just Microsoft, but the whole partner ecosystem is going to have to step up and increase their knowledge of marketing and marketing technology.
I've seen some partners taking that step. There's several now that I'm seeing are starting to get more excited and starting to get deeper into the product and getting into the training, getting their certification. I cheated. We just partnered with you guys, but
Glad you did.
But I do see a lot of partner interest. Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but there are definitely some partners out there because for this product to truly succeed, they need more than a handful of partners. They're going to need quite a few partners to really get this thing going. And out there in the competitive space, with the Marketos, the HubSpots, even the Click Dimensions, some of these other products, what do you think are some of Microsoft's unique uh, angles against those competitive solutions?
Yeah, that's really kind of the great question. It's the product itself is version one, and so as you might expect, it's maybe not as fully featured as some of those more established vendors. At the same time, it doesn't drag along all the baggage that some of those established vendors have. It's got what I would describe as all the core features you would expect in a marketing automation platform, as well as a few kind of nice bells and whistles that are unique. The big advantage, I believe, especially for Dynamics customers, is the fact that it's natively built on the CDS architecture. And so that takes away one of the big hurdles that we've often had to help our customers with, is try to integrate a standalone marketing solution into Dynamics. So that alone, and that's frankly a big advantage over the predecessor product as well. So we feel like that gives you a great foundation to start from. And then, as you look at what capabilities this tool brings to the market, it has some pretty innovative thinking around how you leverage the data in your database for segmentation, using customer insights and using some of the other capabilities in Dynamics, such as voice of customer or Power BI, portals, etc. Those things allow you to really extend the value of marketing. And I think, that concept of a unified platform is really powerful. So certainly if you're already a Dynamics customer, this is going to be a great addition to you. That's what we've seen. And I think, we've already seen some new features coming out, and the next release will be, I think, in about a month. And already some exciting stuff there that's going to maybe change the game a little bit for marketing automation.
Yeah, it's interesting because very often the envelope is pushed in some space by a startup. Some startup comes out there, sees the existing landscape and comes up with a new way to approach it. And this has been very much like a startup, but the startup is backed by Microsoft.
Right.
So, it's
Yeah.
it's a little different, but the whole team has really acted and worked like a startup. And looked at it the way a startup does, is how's everybody else doing this? Where can we take the status quo and step it up, another level? And it really feels to me like a very much a startup mentality, but unlike most startups, like I say, this one's got a, what, gazillion-dollar company behind it.
Yeah, which is great because, frankly, startups struggle in the early years to get their product out in the market and deal with all the challenges, the chaos, the customers. Here, we've already seen Microsoft step up pretty quickly in terms of support to address defects and gaps and to bring resources to the table, even, frankly, over weekends and things like that, to help ensure that the customer achieves their goals with this solution. So we're pretty excited about that commitment that we're seeing, the roadmap we're seeing. So it will be a bumpy road, but at the same time, there is that level of commitment that maybe wasn't there previously with the predecessor product.
Yeah, I think that, I still have partners asking me and even customers asking me whether, Microsoft is serious this time. The MDM kind of left a little bit of a bad taste that, they went down a path and then they dropped it. And now here they're going down a path again. But I definitely get the sense that there's a commitment to, to get this thing to be a legitimate contender in the space, and it's not like just a little side project like I felt the last one was. Do you get that sense?
I do too. Yeah, absolutely. And just in the mechanics of the way the product is being built, the way the documentation is fully integrated, all the release notes. just fundamentally, it's much more inherent in the overall platform versus MDM, which was almost more of an afterthought, frankly, in my opinion. So yeah, we're seeing a much more consistent deployment process, engaging the partners and thoughtfully kind of rolling it out.
You're you're probably a good example because you went down the path deep with MDM, ended up getting kind of bloodied in the process. And of anyone out there that I can imagine that would be skeptical about the next effort, I would have to put you guys at the top of the list. But you're waist deep in it.
Yeah, we are, and all of that's true. We've
Are
eaten
you
and
just
bloodied.
insane?
Yeah, and it's taken a big, frankly, leap of faith here to get behind this solution. But I think the early read is that it has already solved some of the fundamental problems with MDM, which primarily was the fact that it's now natively built in the CDS architecture. And so it leverages all of the power of Dynamics. It's not a bolt-on, so to speak. And so foundationally, it's better. The commitment from the engineering team is sound. The rollout process is much more thoughtful in terms of engaging a pilot group of partners and so forth. So we're seeing a lot of the right motions that are going to ultimately make this successful. Again, not that it'll be without incident or challenge, but it feels like there's a stronger commitment universally to this solution than the predecessor.
So the elephant in the room recently, left the room, and that was the pricing model they launched with. That, as you know, was a big battle for me with that team from the jump. And I wrote about it, and obviously there were lots of folks that seemed to share those opinions on how they went to it. And it took a while, but they did fix that, and we've got a new pricing model coming out here next month as well. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we're right there with you. We were one of the ones that early identified the challenge with the old model. And basically the change is to apply the pricing to marketable contacts. That concept is what many of the other vendors use, but I think had gotten maybe misappropriated in the dynamic space because the contact entity is used differently for CRM and for other purposes. So now that has been corrected and sort of reapplied now properly, which when it's all said and done for the customer is the right answer. So it associates the value of this application with how it will be used by customers, which is ultimately to market to their prospects and customers. And so we think that the net effect will be a very competitive pricing scheme relative to the functionality and how it's going to be used by customers. So that's, I think, also sort of reflects your earlier comments about the commitment to the customer and really to the partner group who provided that feedback early on. Their willingness to make the change, I think, has been very much appreciated.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising to think that one sentence, now only marketable contacts, will entirely change the trajectory of this product. After all of the investment, after all of the effort, after all the sweat, it wasn't going to go anywhere short of that one sentence, and that really has changed the entire trajectory of this thing, don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah. We have been one of the early participants in this overall program, and right up front, we had some customers that bounced quickly because the pricing was just a big miss. And so now, unfortunately, had this been in place, I think those might have been a win, or at least would have had the opportunity to be a win. So I think it's a good direction forward now.
Yeah, I think ironically that's kind of given us the opportunity to work with the team to sort out some of the initial issues. I would hate to have been trying to sort out some of those initial issues with hundreds of customers at once. So I mean, good news, bad news, right?
That's right.
Uh,
Yeah, and this. You're right. It may be kind of the silver lining on a what was a dark cloud. So now we've had a much more methodical rollout. We've identified a lot of issues, but those issues have already been corrected. So we feel like the product is becoming stable very, very quickly, and that's going to open the door to much more success. Many more implementations. Um, Ultimately in a faster path and without all the headaches that might have been encountered a few months ago.
so bugs have been fixed for the most part. Pricing model has been, fixed into something that makes sense. Throw your head back, look out a year from now. Where do you see this product?
I'm very bullish on it. I think it's going to be a real competitor. I think it's going to be very successful. I think the areas that are going to need some fine tuning over the next 12 months are the usability. We still see a need and are hearing from our customers who are trying to use the product that they do need additional guidance from an expert. That's something that I think will get resolved over the next 6 to 12 months, just making it a little bit more intuitive to navigate, making some of the functionality that requires maybe a bit more technical experience than it should. Make some of that simpler so that the average marketer can kind of go in there and use it without having to know a lot of code or know very specific disciplines that you'd like to. The point being, you'd like to have it be very simple and very usable by any marketer in any industry. And right now, I think it's not quite as simple as ultimately it will be maybe 12 months from now.
I mean, that could be really said for everything in Dynamics 365, though. I mean, most of the products are very powerful, and it's a pretty rare customer who invests in the internal resources to be able to, be successful. And that's one of the reasons the whole partner community exists out there. And
That's right.
I think with this product it's also similar. It's not like they just created an email mailing application here. They really have built a lot of capability around this product, um, and it's complicated. I mean, I can certainly see over time it getting easier, and certainly for routine tasks like I want to create a newsletter. Ultimately, a marketer at a customer needs to be able to easily do that themselves.
That's right.
But there's lots of things in there that could potentially be beyond what someone with just a marketing understanding might struggle with for now, maybe for a while. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, you're right. I mean, on a relative scale, you point out something interesting, which is for a version one, product, it does have a very wide footprint. It's got a lot of the capabilities that you might not expect from an early product. Things like the LinkedIn integration and surveys and portals connections and events is probably one of the big differentiators of this product for any companies doing webinars and events. There's a whole event planning capability that you typically wouldn't find in a marketing automation solution. So there's definitely some really nice extensions off of kind of the classic marketing automation. And then all the things that you would expect in marketing automation are there, and they're solid. They're lean. They're efficient. So we're pretty excited about it. We're excited about the roadmap and some of the things that are coming out in October already. So pretty quickly. And I think it'll take a little bit of learning and trial and error, but ultimately a lot of these capabilities are really going to make this a powerful platform for marketers.
So then for some of the customers that kind of jumped in on the V1 with or without a partner and had some issues or challenges, you'd say, don't give up on it just yet. I mean, we're
Right. Yeah, I don't know that we've, in fact, I don't know that we've, I guess we wouldn't know if they've given up yet, but we've had several that are still engaged and working with it. They're kind of expanding their use of it from basic emails to more sophisticated journeys that incorporate events or webinars. Those are the use cases we're seeing now. I would say that selfishly, our value is really helping them understand how to execute those things and how to put structure in place. Our firm's mission is really more about getting business value from any technology, whether it's this one or another one. And that really relies on having a sound strategy, having a good understanding of customers, how they buy, why they don't buy, where they get their information. And, we help our customers through a process to define that customer journey and help them sort of message map their content into that journey. And so it gives purpose to a solution like Dynamics 365 for marketing. It's not just it's just a tool in one sense. So if you don't have a strategy to use it, it's not really going to drive business value for you.
I think that maybe more than any of the other solutions, this one is fairly naked, whether it's working for you or not. A sales application, fine, makes things more efficient for the sales team. Field service, is managing that group. But a marketing solution, I'm going to install that solution, and I'm going to expect results from using that solution, measurable results that I can look at. So it pretty much lays itself out there, whether it's a success or failure for your organization.
Yeah, you're right about that. And the embedded insights are really awesome. Frankly, the ability to get all of your not just your emails, but the web and events and all the statistics that help you understand what kind of traction you're making with your prospects and customers. That's really powerful stuff. And you're right. It's pretty much right out of the box. So if I've, built my campaigns properly, if I built my journeys properly, I can see, instantaneously what kind of performance I'm having. And that's really important, because the reality is marketing itself is a bit of trial and error. The whole concept of A/B testing or whatever is to help you understand what's working and what's not, and be able to rapidly make adjustments to better engage your customers. So we're really bullish on that part of it for sure. The embedded Power BI capabilities.
Yeah, they certainly went after some big blocks of differentiation like events, but even in some of the small areas, they really tried to stretch that beyond what maybe some of the other solutions provide and leverage some of the things that only they have. And I'm thinking about like the lead scoring and some of that sort of stuff that makes deep use of, Azure analytics to, it's an unfair advantage. I mean, they have this advantage that they've got this huge Azure machine learning, infrastructure that they can tap into, and they're just, and you mentioned the portals for the events thing. They're really taking some of the things that are unique to Microsoft and creating some unique advantages intentionally, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it's all seamless is what's really powerful, right? I mean, that stuff can be done with other solutions, but it requires a lot of integration and a lot of syncing and, just trying to marry up data. Here, it's pretty much native. So all that happens really without much thought for the user. And that's good stuff. The power of, being able to access all the data within Dynamics 365, I think is a huge opportunity, especially for companies that are, savvy with their data, the way they use customer data, transactional data, personification, and, be able to bring all that into a common database and segment against it. We're starting to see a lot more interest in behavioral marketing, using behavioral science to look at the actions of customers. Again, why they buy, what's the mind state of the buyer, and how to really trigger that. There's a lot of new capabilities that companies are bringing to the table, and you need a tool like Dynamics Market 365 for marketing to be able to take advantage of that information.
It sounds like Big Brother is here, right?
I suppose there's some truth to that. But it's also,
As long as it's working for me, I'm okay with it.
That's right. Well, one other comment I do think we've seen is that the approach here with this marketing solution, it does take to account some of the new regulations that are out there, the GDPR certainly, and this idea of opting in. The notion of buying lists and blasting emails, that's dying pretty quickly. I think people are realizing that approach has such a low success rate. They're really looking for ways to engage, inbound and be able to target prospects and customers who are interested in their products and not just blast the universe. So the design of the application, I think, takes into account a lot of that new thinking. It's very efficient in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is definitely an advantage of building something brand new from the ground up in today's environment. Is GDPR is there the day they launched this product. This thing was built with GDPR in mind at the outset, as opposed to going into a legacy application and trying to make it accommodate. So it does seem like, I mean, I've always been, one of those early adopters. And there's always risk with being an early adopter, but I think I feel a little better that, with Microsoft behind it, that, it's gonna move quickly. And I think it's gonna move. I think it's gonna move the needle for them. I'm pretty excited about it. Well, Thomas, I think we probably covered it.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Steve. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think we probably covered what I was hoping to get from you in this little bit of time.
Okay, good. Well, it's timely because I've got another call scheduled.
Well,
But,
it looks like you're about a minute late to the top of the hour. So thank you for holding over and taking this call off the cuff. How could people reach you?
Yeah, so I appreciate that. It's coffee-dunn.com, www.coffee-dunn.com. Certainly they can reach me at tmanders at coffee-dunn.com. And then, if none of those work, feel free to reach Steve and he'll track me down.
All right, cool,
So I
man.
appreciate the opportunity.
I thank you for, taking the time and catching you off guard like this. Talk to you soon.
No worries. Good luck with the future podcast.
All right.
Thanks.